These last few weeks sure have been good in terms of tool acquisitions, and I cannot wait to show y'all some of the just plain fun tools that I've picked up lately. Here's a quick overview of just a few of the things that you're going to see in this video, but believe me, this is the tip of the iceberg. There are so many more cool tools to come. I don't usually mess around with molding planes, but when I came across this particular set, and especially for the price that I had a chance to get them at, I just couldn't turn it down. Most of these, if not all of them, are in really nice shape. I mean, you don't see the cracks, you don't see the checking on the ends, you don't see the dry rot. I mean, I think these are going to make some great users, and someone, whether it's me or somebody else, is going to return these to the bench and put them back to work. This miter plane was in that lot with the molding planes that I just showed you, and this is what got me down the road to go look at them. You can see it's not perfect. It's got a little stuff there on the back of the mouth. And that may be a repair. I'm really not sure on that. But either way, this thing's got a lot of potential, and it's actually in a little nicer shape than what I currently have in that, we'll say, number 9 slot. But I'm going to clean this thing up, and I'm really on the fence about whether I'm going to keep it or not. Let me do kind of a lightning round real quick and just go through some of these that are maybe not as high end or even medium end. Is that a thing? So this number 220, it's in really decent shape. It's really clean. But what makes it, of course, is that original box. And so even though it's got the writing and stuff on it, it's a really clean label, made in USA. So for people that like block planes and like boxed stuff, that's pretty good. This number 65, I definitely went after, because when I looked at the pictures, this was an online auction, it looked like the mouth was clean. And so often when I find these, the mouth is not clean. But once I actually picked it up and got to looking at it, I discovered that the mouth was not quite as clean as I had hoped. So there's no cracks on the corners, but it appears to have been modified. Still going to make a great user. It just won't sell for what I had kind of hoped that it otherwise would have. But it does have that nice Sweetheart logo there. So like I said, still a pretty decent plane, but just not as nice as I had kind of hoped. This is a later chisel here, number 60.5. And what's interesting is 2 each. So originally this box had 2. This one just has 1. Lots of people turn their noses up at the plastic handled chisels, but these make great users. I mean, you got that nice metal back that you can really pound on if you need to. But number 60, and it is a Stanley, and it's in the original box. So pretty nice. This is one of my favorite ones that I found in this particular lot, or that I picked up. This one actually came from Don Downing. You guys may remember a video that I did with him, an interview where my son interviewed him a while back. I think it was last summer. But what's unique about this one, well, what's special is that rosewood sole is in really decent shape for its age. And then that original V logo blade. I mean, these are so hard to find in original condition like this with the original blade. And the nickel plating really mostly intact there. Very few deficiencies on that. So a pretty special 81 there as far as I'm concerned. I showed you that 220. This is a number 4 still in the box. And what's interesting, you'll see this Sweetheart logo on there that stayed around long after Stanley stopped putting Sweetheart on the planes themselves. We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is the original plane that was in this box. But as you can see, it is a Type 17. And we know that a couple different reasons, but we start with no nickel plating on the lever cap, the patent info on the back, which I realized that that lever cap could be changed, but it has a number of other indicators like the steel adjuster back here, no frog adjustment screw, and then the steel versus brass for the tote and knob there. So this has all of the markings of being a Type 17, and that's what we're going to go with. But again, still has the Sweetheart logo on the box, even though it's not a Sweetheart, or not from what we would typically consider the Sweetheart era. And then what I would also expect would be for this to have a 3-digit stamp on it somewhere, a 3-digit number. But I do not see that on this one, and that is less common for Type 17s. But obviously it does happen, and there's always the possibility that after, 70 years or however long it's been, it could also be a replacement blade. That is conceivable, even if doubtful. All in all, just a really solid user, number 4. So it doesn't have the frog adjustment screw, but man, look, it's so clean. And the blade is nice and flat. No damage or repairs or anything on the tote.
It's got a good clean mount there. I mean, this thing will make a fantastic user for somebody. And somebody who likes box stuff or World War II stuff, you know, Type 17 era stuff. It's not a fantastic box, but I mean, it's an original box. This next one is a Defiance number 1213. And for a lot of folks, they may not have seen this style of plane before. There's a 1213 and there's a 1213 and a half. And this is the 1213. As you can see, I have not gotten a chance to clean it up yet. I'm going to say that this is in the scrub plane family. The 1213 and a half has an adjustment mechanism back here. Those aren't very common either. But this is from the Defiance line. And as far as Defiance planes go, and Defiance is in Stanley Defiance, as far as those planes go, this is one of the more desirable ones, I think, because it's less common. It actually has Japanning on the cheeks, much like you would see with a number 40 scrub plane. And these sell in the, I think, $50 to $60, $70 range, something like that on eBay. And so I will clean this one up. And y'all will probably see this one again because this is going to be part of the flipping series that I'm doing. So make sure you check that out as well. And then this is one of the, I guess, more special planes that I picked up. It does have a lot of loss of Japanning back here, so I will leave that up to the next owner if they want to try to refinish that or not. But what makes this one special is it does have the partial decal that we see from the Sweetheart era. And then if you look real close, you can actually see, maybe I'll just take this off for you so I can show it up front, or show it up close rather. But this actually has the Sweetheart logo on the brass as well. And apparently it's a long screw. So let's see if we can get the camera to focus in on that. You see the Made in USA, and then you can see the little Sweetheart, the little logo in the center. Pretty tough to see, it's kind of worn. But in addition to that, it also has the original Sweetheart logo on the blade. And I can tell you, as a parts guy and as a frequent flipper of tools, it is really hard to find an original blade for most any scraper, really, just because it is a consumable and those things got used up. And of course they come out of the plane so easily as well, so if this thing gets loosened up, the blade just drops out, and they can also get lost to time that way as well. But overall, a pretty clean, original looking tool. It's not over cleaned, and it's in pretty decent shape. This one is for the chair makers out there and anybody else who might need a scorp. We're going to call it a scorp, even though some folks would argue that it has to be a rounded blade that comes back together. But we're going with scorp on this. And a lot of times with these, the handles will be fairly loose, or the blade will be pitted or mostly used up. This one is in overall really, really decent shape. This blade, or this handle, has an ever so slight wiggle. It's barely even noticeable. Got plenty of blade life left. It will definitely take an edge again, and this will be a fantastic user for somebody. And while we're talking about edge tools like that, let's also cover this folding draw knife. This was in that estate sale auction that both of the boxed tools that I've shown so far were in. And I'll be honest, I didn't even see it in the pictures. I didn't even know that this one was included until I went down there to go pick up what I had won in that auction. And as you can see, it's got a little name on there. Where are we going with? Wellock, something like that. But a folding draw knife, I get frequent requests for these. People looking to put one of these in their toolbox, especially their mobile toolkit, because it folds up. But lots and lots of life left on that blade. Fairly clean. It's not pitted. And I mean, this thing, I know you guys are probably getting tired of hearing it already. It's going to make another great user, because that's what we like to do. We like to sell user tools as much or more than we sell collector tools. This one deserves a quick mention. It's another Type 17. We see the Gouda Percha adjuster back here. This one does have the frog adjustment, but it's got the steel up here. Lever cap with no nickel plating on it. I mean, it's got all the hallmark signs of a Type 17. Gonna make a fantastic user. It has been repaired, but this one, the repair is actually halfway decent. I mean, it's not perfect, but somebody did a pretty decent job of putting that one back together. This was probably before Gordon Addison was making videos on how to do it. Can't really go wrong with a Bedrock. This one is a 606. It's a flat side, single patent date back there. So this one's a little later. It doesn't have the Bedrock on the lever cap, but it's got an intact rosewood tote that's in pretty decent shape and no chips on the lever cap. So that helps keep its value up. Original Sweetheart logo there on the iron, and lots of life left on it. So, and it's flat. I mean, a lot of times, unfortunately, these end up getting bent up, and all it takes is one fall off the bench. Overall, this thing is in pretty decent condition, and I think I'll probably we spend a little bit of time on it, knocking off that outer layer of grime, and we're going to see what we can do with this one. This one is a Facebook Marketplace find that had to get shipped in, but man, I'll tell you, I think this one's going to return to the bench for somebody and make a fantastic... Wait, I'm not even going to say it. I don't know how many Miller's Falls collectors watch my channel, because I mostly talk about Stanley stuff, but I will tell you that just box stuff in general for Miller's Falls, it's not terribly common. I mean, it does show up, but in my experience, the longer the plane, the less likely you're going to see an original box for it. So this being a number 7 size, a jointer, and having the original box, even though it's all taped up and it's not in the best of condition, it is, I'm going to say, less common. But what's also less common is having one that's in that nice a condition. So it looks like the box took a lot of the wear and tear from just sitting, over time, and the plane managed to actually keep its, we'll say, relatively clean and nice shape there. So, I mean, you don't see number 22s, number 7 size Miller's Falls this clean very often, and this one would be appropriate probably to sit in somebody's collection, somebody that needed a nice number 7, and especially if they wanted to try to clean that box up a little bit. I mean, look at that nickel plating. That's pretty clean. And the blade, of course, I mean, this thing has probably seen very little, if any, use. I bet it was one of those where it was purchased, it was used a couple times, if that, and then they put it back in the box and put it back on the shelf for however long, 50 years. If you want to learn more about Miller's Falls, the best website to do that is justtheplainfacts.com. That is where you'll find the definitive type study for Miller's Falls. And for example, you could look this one up and see what type it is based off of some of these different factors. The lever cap, look at the signs on the back of it. It's got the patent applied for back there. Look at the logo there, or trademark on the iron. And then consider that brass adjuster back here and the frog adjustment. All of those are going to be indicators, among others, the brass here as well, that will help you determine the type of that particular number 22. I picked up this kind of large Machinist box at that same online auction that I picked up some of those other planes in. And basically what you can see here is all that I could see in the listing for the online auction. And it wasn't even this clear. I've put the router plane together. Some of the parts were actually in this box right here. And then the trammel points, I think I could only see one in the picture. If I can find them, I'll show you guys a quick rundown of what I could see. But essentially, the auction house couldn't actually figure out how to get the front of it open. So I was kind of bidding kind of blind. And I kind of went high retail for what I thought the complete router plane would be worth. And then I was taking a risk from there. And fortunately, as y'all are about to see, this one really panned out. But as far as this particular kind of top of the thing goes, a complete wartime router plane. The other two blades are actually here somewhere. And then this is actually a Sweetheart marking gauge right here. So those can be a little bit tough to come by. And then this Lufkin surface gauge, I guess would be what it's called. Surface something or other. And this I actually put back together from parts, and it is unfortunately damaged right here. But I'll be able to hopefully find a complete head to go on that one. And then just some other really nice things here. Got some nice trammel points. And there's actually a Sweetheart long ruler right here as well. Oh, and there's the other blade that I was telling you about. So 100% complete wartime router. Just an all-around great find, just this top part alone. And just wait till you see what's down below. I've always heard these referred to as Kennedy Machinist boxes. Maybe you've heard a different name. But the rule of thumb, at least what I've always seen, is that the top of it has to be all the way closed. Usually, in my experience, the top has to be all the way closed before the front of it will open. And so naturally I tried that first, but that was not the key to getting into this thing. The key to getting into it was pulling these two nails right here.
which I had a friend of mine on site at the auction place when I picked it up that helped me figure that out. I kind of learned the hard way by kind of forcing it open. But incidentally, the front of it already needs to be repaired as well. So a little extra required repair is not the end of the world on this. This top drawer kind of just has some flotsam and jetsam, if you will. It's got this homemade marking knife right here, which is kind of cool. It's got a nice 6-foot Stanley tape measure. Sure can't beat that. And just some good utility type tools that are good to have around. Some of which I may sell, some of which I may give away. An old chuck to fit that piece of machinery that's maybe missing one. And these 2 Stanley punches. These things are pretty legit. So all in all, I'm going to give that drawer about we'll say a 4 out of 10. For this drawer, this is more of what I would expect to see in a Machinist box as far as, say, the dividers. Got some various brands, but definitely a couple Starrett in there. And then some calipers. The auger bits, maybe not so much, but for sure the rest of it, we're going to give this drawer about another 4 out of 10. This was the drawer that when I first opened it, almost made my heart skip a beat, because these crank necks, as many of you know, are pretty sought after and they're pretty popular. And there were a number of those in here of various brands, but these in particular are the Wellman Production Company out of Cleveland, Ohio. So this is kind of a set right here. I haven't decided 100% what I'm going to do with those, but this is a pretty quality drawer. I mean, obviously that chisel has seen, that handle has seen better days, but that's pretty easy to replace. And I know these probably look like 720s or 750s, but they're not. These are actually bluegrass chisels, but they're made in that style. But either way, we're going to give this drawer about a 10 out of 10. These are some of your more classic Machinist tools. You can see where there's going to be a ruler for this somewhere. You got your center finder and some other various Machinist tools. You got the little miniature dumbbells, right? Okay, I'm just kidding. Got the little rounding tools for determining circles or edges or spheres or something. I don't know. My buddy Frank told me what they are, but honestly I don't remember, and I'm a woodworker, not a machinist. So feel free to come in the comments and let us all know what those things are. And by the way, we're going to give that last drawer a 5 out of 10. This next one has a few spoke shaves, including these little luthier style spoke shaves in there. And this one, that's kind of cool. The guy was apparently a pattern maker, so we can presume that maybe he made these. But then it did have a good Stanley spoke shave as well. And this is a sweetheart, so a little number 51 there. And it even came with a spare blade. So chances are when this spoke shave was purchased, the gentleman probably purchased a spare blade at the same time from the hardware store, which is pretty legit. And then another set of trammel points down here in this drawer. So we are going to give this drawer about a 7 out of 10. Last and certainly not least, we have the bottom drawer that features our lathe tools in there, as well as a nice chalk line and some aluminum triangle templates. And I'm not even sure what those would be used for, but for a pattern maker, I'm sure they were good stuff. And this gouge, and this is actually a JAS Swan. And so that one is going to be kind of sought after, and I'm pretty tempted to keep it. But we're going to give this last drawer a 7 out of 10 as well, partially because of that gouge. And there you have it, folks, the latest Just Plain Fun acquisitions. Patrons, you know what to do. Everybody else, if the patrons don't buy them, they'll be available.